It's the boys. We are back. The Auto Trend podcast is back. I'm your co-host, Gideon Williams, and we are excited for yet another episode of the Auto Trends podcast to bring you the latest, the greatest, what is happening in our industry. We're coming off of ACPN Connect in the aftermarket, supported by the Auto Care Association, Yang. There's so many parts of our industry that are connected there with what manufacturers are doing, where is data going, how is technology basically connecting into our world. It was an incredibly awesome week out there, and would love to just talk a little bit about what went on. What do we think the future is? There's a lot of things that are kind of happening in our industry, like AI, right? And I know that's a buzzword, but we're going to kind of go through a lot of that things and also just talk about some of the things that we're seeing in the industry. And again, as always, your co-host Gideon Williams and Lucas Welk. It is exciting, and I am happy to see you back on set.
Back
Today,
in action.
baby. That's right.
Unfortunately, yeah. My apologies. Last week I was in transit and I was supposed to have Wi-Fi during one of my connections, and unfortunately they did not have Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi was down, so I was missing in action last week. But I am back.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. As a globetrotter that you are, did you get any free coffee or free wine, or did they give you anything of service when they did not have internet?
They give me a room with no water, about 100 degrees and no internet access. Yeah, yeah. So I literally, when I was calling you, I was literally outside, which I was at a port, and I literally had to walk outside the security gates up a hill every time I had to go out. And I smoke, so they stole my lighter 3 times. I had to buy a lighter 3 different times, which was even annoyed me even more. Every single time I went out and went back in, they'd steal my lighter. I'd go back out, talk to you again, buy another lighter, go back in, they take it again, go back out again. So that was annoying.
Well, I've been telling you, man, you got to stop smoking. Things are going to kill you.
I know it's all these signs. I see the signs.
Signs. I see the science, man.
Yeah, exactly.
The black lungs, man. I've seen those pictures.
Yes. Well, I'm sure I have them. If I could show you a picture of mine, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But you had a big week last week.
Oh, geez,
that's a big week.
Huge week. Yeah. No, it's as I say, it's glad to have you back, man.
Right.
Missed you, but yeah, huge week. ACPN put on by the Auto Care Association Connect. All that was going on last week in Chicago. We had an absolutely awesome week, man. A big turnout. I mean, a ton of just a ton of the big manufacturers were there. All of your data experts, your data celebrities, so to speak. Joe Thomas of CTR, man. Shout out, awesome dude, knows his shit. Sam Russo, saw Sam.
Yep. And you were signing autographs, I understand, for a while. You were at your booth signing autographs, and
I don't know about that. Just trying to wave people down, just so I can, get a beer.
So yeah, exactly.
But no, it's really an awesome time. I think what's interesting about that Connect ACPN, and any two of our listeners, if you've never been to Connect and ACPN Auto Care, so put on by the Auto Care Association, many organizations in the aftermarket, sponsor it and support it. It's an interesting event because it's not everybody in the industry, right? It's not sales teams galore. It's not everybody inside the org goes. It's very select few. It's people who are in the data, who are in e-commerce, who are really trying to push the limits with technology. So it's like when you go to SEMA and Apex, it's much more greater of like the industry people. Your big sales guys go, your big executives go. And there's executives and presidents at Connect as well. Don't get me wrong. There's a ton of those guys, 100%, because they want to know what's happening in technology in an automotive and parts. And that's a big topic. But it's so detailed around the cataloging, folks who are in the online part selling or manufacturers that are looking at how do they improve their data. And so it's so focused. It becomes really an awesome event. And there's just so many great people that you meet and learn from. And all of the speakers they're all people in the industry, right? It's not like we bring in the CEO of Apple to talk about what's happening at the iPhone, but it's people in the industry, but it's also a great talent that's either come into the industry that's new. So there's so many insights, and I just encourage everybody that's thought about going next year. It's going to be in Phoenix. Ooh, that's going to be a good time. It's a great
Yeah.
week, and it was
Yep.
awesome to be a part of and watch.
Yeah. And maybe for Gideon, for our listeners, I know there's an organization that we know of that is looking at collecting catalogs and getting catalogs. And maybe you want to kind of just do a little shout out to those manufacturers and whatnot on here now. Just based on the
Yeah,
conversation we had last week.
yeah, no, that really is a good point. Yeah, so we're obviously involved in the technology space at every level, and we talk. It's very close to us, and we keep a pulse on it. But what we've seen, I mean, Revolution Parts, they they were out there, and just gaining access into cataloging and what they're doing. I really think that they're one of the forward companies. I think there's a lot of organizations that are looking at this space. It's really hard, just for some folks who doesn't have an idea. With Revolution Parts, we have some of their guests on. We have guests from all over in the industry, but they came up in the OE world, so the story is really interesting. They came up in the OE world, and obviously now they're fully into the automotive, very large network. The performance of what that platform has done from a seller's perspective, OE manufacturers, etc. It's quite awesome. It's very, very cool to see. And I think we formed a lot of great relationships last week. Just a ton of awesome things, some great brands. I don't know that we have to name them here, but
Yep.
definitely some great brands that are reputable in our space. And so it's really exciting to see that evolve. And we'll continue to watch it, right? We'll continue to see how it nets out, I think, over the course of time.
Yep. Yep. So what was there one big takeaway that or theme that you've seen at Connect that was interesting or kind of
You
bit of
know,
everything?
I think that's a really interesting question and an important question. I, I loved observing everybody and it was people there from manufacturers to distributors. The distributors showed up big time. I was pretty surprised by that. All the warehouse distributors in our industry showed up. Not a ton of e-tailers, not a ton of parts sellers online, right? However, car parts did have a presence out there, carparts.com. I saw nobody from Rock. But I think the big takeaway is that everybody has their eye on digital enablement.
Mm-hmm.
Future is going to be within technology and parts and cataloging. And what's the future, right? Like, I think the older days was like, well, how do you grow? Well, we just, grow our sales team, right? We just hire more sales guys and get them on the road and,
Right.
boots on the ground. It's all boots on the ground.
Yep.
But I
Yep.
think the sentiment was very clear. Cataloging is more important than ever. Investing in your catalog is more important than ever.
Right.
I saw that trend heavily, right? Motorrad, they were honored, right? And the ACPN 2024 Content Excellence Award. There was many, many others. But we definitely saw that trend. I think
Yep.
another trend that was quite interesting, you know, and I hate using the word because it's a little bit of a buzzword of AI and how do you use it, right? I got
That's
in a
right. What
great
does it mean?
conversation. Yeah, what
Exactly.
does it mean, right? Like it's such a
Yep.
like I get it, right? Chat GPT. I mean, everyone's kind of, but those are I don't know. Those are like buzzwords, right?
Yep. Yep.
But I had a great conversation with Ryan Henderson, actually of carparts.com. And he really is uber connected into automation and uber connected into AI. Actually, we're gonna have him on the Auto Trends. I don't know if I told you that, Lucas, but yeah, he wants to come on and talk a lot about AI and what the future is. But I think my takeaway on all that stuff was very simple. Is you're looking to understand the application, right? So to understand the application of artificial intelligence and how it can help your business. And you're not necessarily looking to overhaul everything, right? We're going to get rid of everybody. Okay, that's not really a solution. But I think the takeaway is you're looking for small incremental wins, right? How can you take something that was either manual or mundane, or maybe it's a low profit activity, and how can you bring that into a more of a condensed, streamlined process that AI kind of is interconnected in it? So I think as an organization, whether you're a large manufacturer, whether you're a distributor, whether you're a tech platform, whether you're an e-tailer, I really believe that, we talk a lot about risk, right? You always should have a lower risk than the upside. And that's like 101 in life. But I really mean that when you look at the digital enablement, right? It's having low upside and really low risk and a high upside. And so I think when you look at AI, it's important that we begin to talk about the small incremental wins, because as you know, small incremental wins grow into medium wins, and medium wins turn into large wins, and large wins turn into evolution. Right?
100%. That's a 1.1% a day rule, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
A day, and
that's right. Yeah, the 1% rule. Every day improve 1%. You don't have to be you don't have to double. You don't have to double your improvement. Just 1% a day. That's it.
Exactly. Yep.
And and so I think, I know to your question, the takeaway was very simple.
Right.
Enablement is here. It is coming, whether you like it or not. And look for the small incremental improvements. Look for the 1% every day.
And
1%.
And I think like with AI and stuff like this, it needs to be explained to people, because you listen, we go to the trade shows and we listen to these people just talking about AI, but a lot of the times it really goes over people's heads because they don't get down into the nitty gritty of things. It's kind of this big broad topic that they talk about, and automation and all this, and then you kind of sit there at the end of it and you're saying, okay, well, this all sounds great and all, but what the fuck am I supposed to do next? What's the first step? What am I supposed to do? And I think when people talk about that stuff, it's key that you kind of break that down for these organizations and say, okay, right, yes, we want to have AI, implemented into our organization. We want more automation, more automatic processes, whether it be sales or, whatever part of your organization you want to implement this in, but have a strategic plan with actual details. Because, even to me, I'm really not a tech guy. So when I hear these people talking, like you say, about AI, I'm like, well, la-ti-da, this all sounds really great, but what does it mean? Like, what do I have to do? What do I have to spend? What do I have to buy? What, who do I need to hire? What, what exactly does it mean? So I think, one day I'd love to have somebody really on the podcast that's really involved day to day in some aspects of that and implementation, into these organizations, whether it be manufacturers, distributors, or even e-tailers, and just say, okay, right, as an e-tailer, this is exactly how AI is going to help you, or is helping you now, or can help you if you're just starting out, and really just run through that process step by step by step so that people really understand.
I think that for you, myself, the Auto Trends podcast needs to be actually at the front and center, because honestly, and I pull back from last year when we were at Connect in Orlando. I took a lot away from it. There's a lot of things that you could take, I think, that could help you in your organization, as it's designed for that. But what I also took away was 70% of the presentations were like AI related.
Right.
But every single one that I listened to, and I'm not going to, call anybody out or name anybody names. Every one that I listened to, I had no takeaways, meaning, how can I take an action today? I didn't. Right. It was just like, that's right, AI and 20 billion downloads, and there was the fastest downloads up, the fastest, and it's like, well, what does that even mean? I don't have no idea what that means.
Exactly. No, they just throw out huge numbers, and
Well,
it's
you
like,
know
what?
what? And the sky's
Yeah.
green. I don't know
Right.
what that means
Exactly.
either. When those blue, okay. Like
Right.
so I don't know how to take anything away from that. Now,
Yeah.
what I do believe is helping, artificial intelligence and leverage databases that have knowledge, right? Like I think I want to say, who was it? Was it Google? Somebody did a study on like coding. And this is actually
Right.
pretty interesting because actually I think this could be pretty insightful if you have a team of coders. And they said we're going to have two job applicants come into the job. One job
Right.
applicant is very well qualified, right? 15 years experience, done a lot of great things. And they went through the process and the case study and write the code for, I don't know, this deliverable, right?
Right.
And they did the exact same thing with artificial intelligence. And they basically had said the AI bot, right, which is artificial intelligence, it's leveraging a
Yep.
database that has a database that information is inputted in and it reads it and it learns it and it gets better over time, was in the 95th percentile
Right.
of that job, right?
Right. Right.
That's excellent.
Yep.
That's excellent output.
Of course. 100%. Yep.
And so I
Yep.
think when you start to look at your business from a manufacturing perspective, your clear objective is to manufacture incredibly amazing products. Don't ever
Mm-hmm.
take your eyes off that. You're not a tech
Yep.
company.
Yep.
You're not a data company. You are a manufacturer of incredibly hard products that of the
Yep.
automakers are making, right? And most big manufacturers have OE contracts, and they have another division that has aftermarket contracts or aftermarket division that supports the replacement. And so I just go back to understanding what your lane is. And I think we're seeing that more and more today, not in automotive. And I'd actually be curious, and you've had a very well rounded experience background in the Middle East. And obviously now you live in Southeast Asia,
Mm-hmm.
in North America. But is just kind of rounding out like what's your core, what are you really good at, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And I don't think if you're a manufacturer, you don't need to also be other solutions, or you
Right.
really look for specialization.
Yep. And I
And
think
I
that
think
we see
yeah.
that all the time in organizations. I mean, we sit in on so many meetings, and you might be, you'll be having a meeting, and you'll have the sales department commenting on what marketing's doing, and marketing commenting on, what the CFO and what the finance, committee is doing, and really, we've talked many times before that it drives me nuts when that happens, because that's not our niche. Don't come to me and ask me about the finance department, because I don't know. I mean, and my opinion means nothing, essentially, because I'm not an expert in that. So I really love these organizations, because there's some great ones that we deal with that are very, very niche, and they run like a top, but they have the best of the best people working in every single department that are highly specialized in what they do. And you get top results from those people. If you've got a bunch of generalists working across the organization, it doesn't work, you know.
Well, I think talent, that says true for talent, right? I mean, we see a lot of generalists, right? And not to
Yep.
take anything away from them because they bring a ton of value, but I just believe as we look ahead, and if you're, in the manufacturing, or you're in the distributing, if you're in the technology, if you're in the selling,
Yep.
just really understanding what your core objectives are and your core principles. I mean, in
Yep.
the industry, we've seen it over the last 30 years, right? Manufacturers get away from the distributor, right? Because they're splitting margin, and then they figure out, well, the distributor owns that really small Lucas repair facilities, or
Yep.
whatever, that small repair shop, and they service. We see that all too often. And
That's right.
I think I've run into it many times where large organizations are in a position where they even will admit, we're not a technology company. We don't our revenues aren't forecasted based on our technology. Our revenues are forecast by our products and demand. And our
That's right.
products demand is from our partnerships and distributors and whoever is selling their product. And I think that that becomes a little bit of a misalignment piece. But I think when you look ahead, you need, you need to look at partners and organizations that really are focused, right? Like, for example,
Yep.
if you're a PEM, a product information, for somebody who doesn't know, product information management system, a PEM in our industry by definition is a distributor of data. So if you're a manufacturer, you hire a PEM. You
Yep.
build out your catalog. It becomes very clean. You get it to the PEM. Then you have
Yep.
hundreds and whoever can come to you to
Yep.
ask for data. All you do is one click of a button and you disperse the data out through the PIM, and now it's gone, right? But think about it, as a manufacturer, you're manufacturing high quality products. You're not a PIM. You're not
Yep.
an e-commerce solution. You're
That's right.
not a distribution center. You're
That's
not
right.
this. So
Yep.
I think when we look at it, we have to understand what is our core objectives in the industry and what are we trying to achieve. And let's
Yep.
be really good at that. Really
Exactly.
good at that. And you will
Exactly.
succeed. I promise you 100% of the time.
Yep. And you see it from, I mean, you've lived abroad as well. I mean, you
Yeah.
particularly see it over in this area of the world. And I mean, I've got a ton of, let's say, Japanese friends over here. And I think the biggest thing that I can say that I've ever taken away from them is they're highly focused and highly skilled. I mean, if you use the
Highly.
example of, a sushi guy, a guy who makes sushi, he makes in the sushi restaurant, he makes the fucking sushi. He doesn't make the rice over here. He doesn't make the noodles over here. He doesn't try to make 100 different dishes. His whole life literally has been dedicated to making the best sushi on the planet. And that's what he does, but he doesn't try to do anything else. And they don't want him to do anything else, so I think that's, I think you can't underestimate that. And a lot of these organizations too, I think we talk to, some of them, have a whole department, a whole slew of people just dedicated to innovation in looking
Mhm.
towards the future and what's the future going to bring. And that's their only job, not management day to day, not getting caught up. What are we doing today? They're looking, what should we be doing next? You know,
Well,
not what we're doing now.
yeah, like I think when we, we're heavily involved in the technology and connecting distribution and people in our industry, we see that all too often. And to your
Yep.
point, I've been very fortunate to travel to many countries, probably been about 30, 35 plus countries, all third world, first world, and in between. And you understand all the different cultures and how they come together. And like
Yep.
to your point, your Japanese example on the sushi. I've spent a lot of time in Japan. A lot of respect for Japanese people. I
Yep.
really love Japanese people. They're
Yep.
incredible. They're incredibly gifted. They're very
Absolutely.
structured and they're
Yep.
very specialized. To your point,
Yep.
like, and this actually was coming from gosh, I don't even know what you would call him, a Chinese. I don't know if it's a chef is the right word, but he goes, it takes like 3 years just to learn rice.
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes
Exactly.
3 years just to get out of rice. What the?
Yeah.
I want to go cut some freaking tuna, baby.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
like what? What
Exactly.
can give
Exactly.
get what?
Exactly.
What
Yep.
can give me a cucumber, man? I'll dice that baby up. No, but
Exactly.
it's like even this. It's a no. 3 years you're on rice, and I'm just like,
Yep.
whoa.
Yep.
And the guy's
Yep.
so good at rice. He's like, I'm gonna be the best rice maker ever.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think there's a lesson to be learned in that.
Yeah.
And as I know this is automotive, and we talk all about automotive, and we have Lauren McLaughlin of Trauma on next week. She's going to talk a lot about some AI, but also she's going to talk about SKU based marketing. She has a great firm, and I think they're a young
Yep.
company. I think they're very smart. And I think they're on the right path. They're going to help. And she's going to talk all about that piece of it.
Yep.
But to your point, be really good at one thing. You don't have
Yep.
to be good at everything. And
That's right.
what's the old saying? Jack of all trades, but a master of nothing. That's not a good place to
Exactly.
be.
No. No. I think, this is good. Even just us talking like this now, good brainstorming. But I think, in the upcoming months, we should have, develop a series maybe over the course of 1 month. Pick a month, and then we'll have a series of, look, if you're in, let's say, an e-tailer, for example, just starting out, we'll go through a few episodes step by step by step. Here's what you need to do. Here's the important things. And just kind of have a series, on this stuff. And I think that would be wildly helpful, to a lot of our listeners and stuff like that, because we do get so many questions coming in after our shows, and, oh, can you tell me more about that, or who would I talk to about doing that?
Mhm.
Or, I'm sure after this episode, people are going to be saying, okay, well, you guys are talking about AI and automation, but who do I need to talk to about this? What do I need to buy? Do I need software? What do I need a licenses? Or but I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, look, I know we look to plan a lot of this stuff out, and I think whenever you and I get on these episodes, it's really about debriefing on what we think and see, just from like not generalists, but just kind of like from industry guys that are looking at what's happening, right? Looking at what's happening with technicians. I think that's a really interesting topic. It's like what technicians are aging out. The new techs, I know there's a push to bring new technicians in. And by the way, if you're a young kid that don't know what you're doing and you don't know what to do, when to do, like, you just like, man, I'm so lost, and like, I don't want to go to college. I like working with my hands. I don't like working at a desk. Man, look at an automotive technician. Technician's in a fantastic job. It's a great career. You can make $100,000+ a year. It's a growing demand. Like, I don't know, man. I just love giving back to the younger. I was a young kid, man, but you were too. And I always looked up to people, and I just always I like working hard. And like, if you're a young kid and you like working hard, and you're just like, there was a whole, if you saw it, it was, input from young and aspiring technicians wanted, right? It's just like the Tech Force Foundation, right? They want feedback, and they want feedback from young people. So anyways, I know that's a little bit of a sidebar topic, but I just say, man, like, young kid, man, you're sitting here listening to this, you're like, what do I do? I just, everything hates me. I don't like, how young kids are, right? You go through weird phases. Man, look at automotive. Man, that's a great industry. There's so many guys that I've seen that are like executive level leaders in the industry that started out as a tech.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that's brilliant.
There's so many paths you can take, once you get in the industry. Yeah, 100%.
Like, you can start out. It's sweating here, baby.
Well,
that's the heat wave now.
That is the heat wave. That's El Nino, El Nino, or whatever it's called.
El Nino.
But no, you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, once you're in the industry, there's so many different paths you're going to go down. If you want to go down a management path, if you want to go down a tech path, if you want to be more hands-on, you can be more hands-on. So, yeah, just get in there and like you say, go to these events like where you're going. I mean, you go to a ton of events every year, almost everything that they have. But I mean, and you're developing those contacts. If you were ever out of work tomorrow, I mean, look at the database of people that you now know that, I'm sure if you said, I'm tired of doing this now, I want to, I'm more interested in this side of it. You've developed these connections, these relationships with these people over the years. And I think that's so important now. And now, again, we always talk about it, but more than ever, that face-to-face contact gives, shaking somebody's hand, giving them a pat on the back. I think, we're losing that with the younger generations now. They don't have those skills. So the people that still do have those skills, that's, the opportunities I think are there. And if you're younger and you can develop those skills and not just text or not just email or go on Facebook or TikTok or whatever you do,
pick up the phone and call them.
Go and see
That's
somebody.
such
Go
a
and
lost
sit in
art.
their office.
Ask them, right?
Like,
hey, I remember my I don't want to get sidetracked, but I remember my first job. Bob Roberts, man, he was a rancher, and I worked in the feed store, and really successful guy. And I knew I wasn't going to be a farmer, man. I grew up in farm country in Texas, and I loved it, but man, I just wasn't a farmer. You know what I mean? Like, I just know I'm not a farmer. There's no question. I'm not a farmer. You got some animals and shit. I grew up around that stuff, and I loved it, and I got a lot of good buddies. But man, I just knew I'm not a farmer, man. I just hate farming. I know we need it, and I love them, and I'm a blue collar guy at heart. But so, to your point, I think there's so many paths, and I think that's what we need to do. I think we need to roll out, series on AI and what the future is, and then roll out a series I really want to do a series on technicians. I've been one that's been pulling at me for actually a long time. Ever since we've launched this, Lucas, is a series on technicians and what are they thinking? What do they feel? I love that. I love getting
Yep.
inside their mind, man, and be like, whoa,
Yep. Yep.
what makes you tick, you know?
Right.
And
Yep.
like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just one guy. I'm just one
Yep.
guy, and I just enjoy talking about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
No, I think, the one nice thing, we get to talk to so many of these people involved in the industry, but at the same time, we can kind of take a step back and look at it as outsiders, let's say from a technician standpoint. And, we often, you and I brainstorm and say, well, what's the future of that? Or, and really try and understand these angles. And that's what organizations need to be doing now. It's back to like the horse and the car thing. Back when there's just horses, everybody thought, well, this is it, man. This is how we fucking travel.
yeah,
There's horses and that's it. Nobody was thinking of the car at some point in time until there was a car. So if you can kind of take a step back in your own organization and say, okay, that's fine. We're, making cameras like Polaroid did, at one point in time. But then if you fall behind the ball and you're not sticking up with these technology and keeping pace, and all you're doing is playing catch up all the time, once the whole industry switches, no, you're going to be left
well,
behind.
the
And we see that
switching
all the
right
time.
now, man. The industry's
Yeah.
switching right now. People
Yep.
people are getting rid of sales. I don't know, man. Take my opinion with a grain of salt. Throw it out in the window. I don't give a shit what you do with it. But I'm just gonna tell you, I'm telling you, manufacturers they're moving away from more sales team and they're hiring more catalog team. I would
Yep.
trade in 5 of my worst sales guys for one good catalog guy manager,
Right.
right? Because
Yep.
that's gonna be the future. I would,
Yep.
and I'm seeing that. I'm watching industries, if this industry, automotive and specifically, evolve
Yep.
into. Look, man, who one guy, we once told, man, people don't sell parts, catalogs sell parts. And so if
Exactly.
you really want to be set up for the future, invest in cataloging, invest in infrastructure, tech
Yep.
infrastructure, invest in connectivity
Yep.
to your warehouses, your distribution warehouse. Also, I think it's an untapped market. And we've been meaning to do an entire episode on not surplus market, on international trade. I think international trade is phenomenal. I think it's a massive growth opportunity. And when you
Yep.
combine it with, no pun intended, surplus market and all these other components, you
Hmm.
really can come together and be an absolute powerhouse of a seller. But,
Yep.
nonetheless, I just think that there's so many things evolving and changing that if you're a small manufacturer, no better time right now than to freaking strike. I think you can
Yep.
take market share from these big guys left and right if you're nimble,
Yep.
if you're smart, if you have a little bit of a strategy and you just have some
Exactly.
fortitude, you don't need a big budget.
Exactly.
It is not about
No.
having a big budget. It's about
No.
having being smart and nimble because right now we're at this inflection point where you can go in, take somebody out of their Achilles heel just
Yep.
because you're smart and nimble. And so,
Yep. Yep.
but
And again,
regardless,
don't try and don't try and do it all. I remember
no,
I think it was last year. I'd always be watching TV, and I like to watch news, so I was flipping always between CNN and BBC and all these different channels. And for some reason, every single morning, whenever I turn on the TV, you'd see this thing, Tabasco hot sauce, right? And it
yeah,
would be celebrating the last whatever 100+ years of this Tabasco
2 billion
hot sauce.
years.
And yeah, exactly. And that's all they make, right? That's all they make. They make really good fucking Tabasco hot sauce. They don't make mustard, they don't make relish, they don't make all this other shit. And the bottle still looks the exact same with the same sort of logo, the same, but they just make really really good stuff. And they're like, look, this is what we're going to do.
What
We're
we
going to
do.
make the best hot sauce. And the same thing with these parts manufacturers. There's many out there that they say, look, we manufacture this particular part, and that's the only part we're going to manufacture. That's what we do. Could we manufacture everything? Sure, we could. We could add a whole product line, many product lines to what we're currently doing, but they don't. Um, just do one thing well,
That's the
focus,
truth.
highly, highly, highly
Specialization.
focus on it. And yeah, get connected, go to these events like where you're going, and you'll win. Connect with the right people, and the right people will certainly help you. Um,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely. Well, Lucas, I know we're
yeah,
coming back on time, and I know we had some topics we didn't get to, but we look forward to having Lauren on Thursday.
yep,
And as always, to our listener base, we've really had just a growing base, and we're honored to be on, what is this, our 23rd episode of the
third,
Auto Trader
I think 23.
podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, 23 at Lucas. This has been really awesome, and it's been a great
Oh,
journey. Um, with bringing the greatest content, being the voice of the industry at every single level. And as always, if you have an initiative, or you believe you bring some immense value, and you have something you want to talk about, we'd love to bring you on and have a forum and provide the platform for you. It's such an easy thing to do, but it provides so much value to not only domestic, our industry, domestic peer here domestically, but also internationally. And so I encourage you, please, the best way to support the Auto Trends podcast is to like and subscribe. As always, if you don't like what you're seeing, well, let us know. I mean, for Christ's sake, we're not freaking going to get pissed. Maybe we'll get pissed. We're not going to get pissed.
Yeah.
We just might send you a nice email back.
Exactly. Yeah, and tell us what you want to hear. If there's something that we're talking about that, or we're not talking about, that you do want to hear about, let us know. Send us an email, send us a message, however you'd like. But yeah, please let us know.
Awesome. Well, as always, guys, we are the voice of the industry. This is the Auto Trends podcast.